Hello and welcome to the Stylish Wellness Podcast. I'm Sarah Banks, your guide to mastering personal style and authority. I've built a successful couture business designing handmade wedding dresses and bespoke occasion wear for women who value elegance and individuality. Now I bring that expertise to help ambitious women like you step into your confidence, express your unique style and make an impact, starting with the clothes you wear. If you're ready to elevate your wardrobe, your mindset and your presence, you're in the right place. Let's create a life and a style that truly reflects the remarkable woman you are. Hello, amazing women. I want to talk to you this week about the style reset. And the style reset has come out of the work that I have been doing to prepare for the authority experience, which I've spoken about a bit on this podcast and which is just about ready. In fact, I'll be announcing in the next couple of days that it is ready. And as part of the authority experience, the first section is all to do with the style reset. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And I've got some notes that I had prepared to talk to you about. But then I was listening to a podcast with Cathy Heller. I don't know if you know Cathy Heller. I think her podcast is Abundantly Ever After. And she was talking to Carrie Green on the She Means Business show. And Cathy just talked about authenticity and about being really authentic with the people who are taking the time to listen to you. And that really struck a chord with me because I think one of the things about style and fashion and even wellness is that there's this idea that other people do it better or look better, or that the ultimate idea is to look really good even if you feel really dreadful inside. And that's something very much that that I'm very against, and I'm very pro you looking as good on the outside as you feel on the inside, which is why I've been developing this concept of the zone of peace, where the outer you that is forward facing to the world and the inner you, which is your hidden ideas and thoughts about yourself and the world, it's where they meet. And my idea is that it's in the meeting that the best version of you is created, and that's what you should be aiming for, if it were an aim, in the way that you get dressed and the way that you show up in the world. And I think that so often, especially as women, that we conform. And it was this idea of conformity that I think struck a chord with me when Cathy Heller was talking about authenticity. So I want to talk to you a little bit on my notes on the style reset, but then I would really like to talk to you for a moment about being authentic and how I feel for myself about being authentic, and how I have perhaps struggled to be authentic at times. And I just want to be, I think, honest. I don't think I'm not honest on this podcast. I don't intend to hide or deceive. But it did make me realize that actually it's sort of like going behind the scenes without there being any scenes to go behind. That I want to talk to you about how we all feel about things really, kind of thing. So it's a bit like, in a way, this episode is a bit like going out to the theatre with a friend and having a really nice time, and then going back to her kitchen and having a cup of tea and discussing it afterwards. That's a bit like how this is going to be today. So with that said, settle back with a cup of tea or coffee or something cool, or the ironing or the homework, whatever it is. Settle back and enjoy this week's podcast, which is on the style reset. A friend of mine rang me a few weeks ago. We had a catch-up chat, and then she said to me, I really think that if I took all of my clothes out of my wardrobe now, I wouldn't put any of them back in, except for the clothes that I bought this year when I could feel a change coming. Of course, I love it whenever any woman talks about change and feelings as it relates to their wardrobe. So we chatted some more, just in an informal, friend capacity, not with my style coach hat on. And what transpired, I'm going to list out because some of you might relate to what she is going through and what she was going through. So this is a summary of what she told me, retold with permission. 1, she has had a lot of her clothes since pre-COVID. She didn't buy many clothes in the COVID era, and actually her life has moved on. So her clothes relate to her life in 2018, 2019. But in the meantime, she's moved house, moved jobs. Her children have left home for uni, so she's an empty nester. She's 5 years older, and her lifestyle has completely changed. Number 2, she is ready for a change in style. She feels different. She feels like she is being called into a new phase of her style life, hence her dissatisfaction with her current clothes. 3, she'd really like to develop her work, move into a new role, but she actually feels like she is holding herself back and feels quite stuck because she doesn't know where to turn. Of course, this was all music to my ears. Not that I was delighted by my friend's distress, far from it. But firstly, because I know and understand where my friend is right now. She is in the midst of a massive life shift, one that many of us recognise. Huge life changes on top of the pandemic years. Many of us know exactly what this feels like. Secondly, I love this idea that she wants to develop herself through her work. Work is such an important aspect for so many of us, but sometimes we get stuck where we are, or we want to make a change and we don't know how. We feel ill-equipped, inadequate, insufficient. And you know how, everything comes from within you, doesn't it? We want to make changes to our external circumstances, but the work first has to happen internally. Or maybe not the work, in inverted commas, but the shift. If you want to make a change to your external circumstances, such as a new job, a career change, returning to work after an extended career break, being promoted, stepping into a role as a CEO, or being a female entrepreneur, whatever it is for you, whatever change you want to make to your external world, starts inside in your internal world, firstly as a thought. And then that thought idea grows into a strategy or a plan. It's in that space between thought and execution where the most trouble lies. Because it's hard. We face rejection. We don't know what to do. We don't know if we're good enough to do it. And this is also the part where your clothes come into their own, because your clothes are able to do so much more than just clothe your body, which is enough in itself. I mean, that's a fairly valuable task right there, but your clothes are able to give you so much more than that. And you can tell that there is an emotional connection between ourselves and our clothes because, you might have already experienced this, but like my friend discovered when she began to feel dissatisfaction with her life, one way that it manifested outwardly is that dissatisfaction with her clothing. She didn't want to wear what she had been wearing. She realised that the identity that her clothes bore for her was her pre-COVID self. And in her desire to move on, to develop herself here and now, she realised that she had moved on, but her clothes had stayed the same. Actually, I was thinking about this. Many of us have uniforms or types of uniforms that we wear, don't we? We get up each day and wear similar clothes. It's like an easy shorthand. Despite everything that I'm teaching you about wearing your capsule wardrobe and hanging your clothes out the night before and all of that, I do understand that for many of you, getting up and wearing a kind of uniform every day is an easy shorthand. Sometimes women will say something to me with great pride, like, I've worn the same white top, black trouser combination every day for the last 10, 15 or 20 years. And I think that's probably because your life hasn't changed that much. But when we change, when our lives change, or we have a desire to change our life, our clothes are often a barometer for that desire for change. So you may be in a similar situation to my friend, or know someone who is going through a change in their life and needs or wants that corresponding style change or style shift. I think of it like a metamorphosis, because if you let it, the transformation is very like being cocooned and then emerging as a butterfly. Even though the process of change can be quite draining, emotionally draining, it's worth the patience and time required to go through the transformation, because you will emerge quite delighted with your new self, with this new level of you. The work that I've been doing just recently, the work on the authority experience, I have divided into 3 phases. And the first one is the reset, which is what gave me the inspiration for doing today's podcast. And then, so it's the reset, the reinvention, and the authority. I think a sense of dissatisfaction or unease or just great desire for a new life or a new version of you is all about the next level you, the authority you, which is why I gave phase 3 the title of the authority. And I put these phases into my bespoke experience, the authority experience. You know, I've been talking for a while now about the authority experience and the fact that it has been coming soon. Well, it's been coming soon for quite a while, and I am delighted to say that the coming soon is nearly over. And I will be, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, I will be revealing in a couple of days that it is actually ready. And then I'll talk a bit further about, at that point, about whether the authority experience might be a good fit for you, might be something that you would like to consider coming to do with me. But I just want to spend some time now talking about the reset. The reset is the first phase in the authority experience, and I think that even talking about it to you will have a positive impact and affect those of you who are in need of or are hungering for or greatly desiring to make this style shift, this life shift. Firstly, in your style and life reset, we go back to the zone of peace. Now, the zone of peace, for those of you who don't know, is that wonderful place where the outer you meets the inner you. That is to say, the outer you, how you look on the outside, meets the inner you, which is all the thinking, feeling parts of you, and the place where they intersect, agree with each other, are in harmony with each other, is the zone of peace. So the zone of peace is where all that you do to present yourself and all that you are when you are thinking and feeling meet. Or you could see it as where the being you, the beingness of you, meets the having, doing you, which is the you create each day to show yourself to the world. Maybe I'm complicating that actually. The simplest explanation is that the outer you and the inner you combine to create the zone of peace. However, if there is a disconnect in how you feel about yourself versus how you show yourself to the world, you won't get the zone of peace. You get the zone of peace when who you are on the inside is perfectly reflected on the outside. That is why it's called the zone of peace. And our first port of call in the reset that leads you to become the authority version of yourself is to the zone of peace. We take the time to understand how you are feeling, what your thoughts are, as well as why there is a dissatisfaction or misalignment with the outer you, how you are presenting yourself to the outside world, what you are wearing, how you do your hair, your personal grooming plan, your accessories, your clothes plan, all those things. So this is a fairly fundamental part of being able to then take great strides later. I'm in a coaching group for something else at the moment for business, and our coach was describing one of her techniques as the slingshot method because it's designed to catapult or sling you forward. It's a great analogy, and the zone of peace does that similar catapulting. You take the time to do it now, to practice it now, to get it right now, and then later you'll see that you spring forward when everything starts to fall into place. Then another aspect of the reset is to rewire your confidence. Now, you may already have confidence, or you may feel that you are lacking confidence, but either way, stepping up into the next level version of yourself will require some confidence building. So that point, amazing women, is where I got to, where I was writing my notes when I heard Kathy Heller talking to Carrie Green about being authentic on your podcast. And as I said before, that the thing that struck a chord was being authentic with you about my feelings, as in my real feelings about what I'm writing and then speaking about on the podcast. And this is what I want to say. I love the concept of the zone of peace, and I know that it works, and I understand how it works, that we need to be whole, and we live in a world that for one reason or another tries to pull us away from being whole. And so I sometimes think that just one of our lives' tasks should just be to become whole. And in fact, I'd say that this to my boys. They're grown up, but they're still my boys. You know, that one of our tasks is to spend our lives learning who we are and to become that. That's what you need to do. So I understand with the zone of peace that it's this great tool to have in your life. But one of the things that I have personally found tricky is this idea of expressing the outer me to the world in areas where I feel that the world is critical. And when I say the world, I mean people I know, people who are within like quite a close inner circle of the people that I know. And I recognize that for a very long time, I was very scared of being me in front of those people. And it really affects you. And so I really just want to say that I'm well aware. I love the zone of peace as a concept, and I'm really delighted that I thought of it and that I use it and that I speak about it in my work. I think it's a lovely tool. But I'm also really aware that I sometimes speak about it in a very easy, light-hearted way. Well, it's where the outer you meets the inner you. And for me, the outer you was problematic for a very long time. And I felt that it was unsafe to be me. And that being me would bring with it a lot of criticism. And I wasn't prepared to endure that criticism. And I felt that the criticism was unfair. And it's not like there's not been a stage in my life where I have been rebellious. You know, I didn't have rebellious teenage years. I didn't have rebellious early 20s years or anything like that. But I would say that my family situation is a fairly straightforward one, where any deviation from what is considered to be right or normal is noted. And being quite a sensitive person, that has really affected me. And I have had to work really hard to make sure that how I feel about myself is totally acceptable. And I do still work on that even now today. And I also feel that because it is something that I do have to work on and I'm very conscious of, that it probably makes me a better coach for people, for women, because I'm much more empathetic, because I understand what it feels like to not feel safe to be you. So I've done various things over the years where when I've realised that actually I'm too scared to do something because I fear what other people will say, I have made myself do it. And it's only been in my more recent years that I've been able to do that. So my classic example is that I always wanted to have my nose pierced and I never did. And I couldn't work out what was stopping me from having my nose pierced, but I quite like to do it. And then I realized that the reason I wasn't having my nose pierced was because I feared what my mother would say. And when I realized that that was the situation, this is me as a grown woman, living on my own, all that kind of thing. When I realized that it was because of what my mum might say, I realized that I had to go and have my nose pierced. So I did. And I did go very blonde a number of years ago, and I had a similar thing. Gosh, if I go blonde, what will my family say? And that was the catalyst for, right, you're going blonde. And actually, that was at a time where I needed to change my life. I mean, it was very much like the reset and the authority experience. I needed to change my life. I wanted to change the way I worked. And the way that I wanted to do that was by going blonde. And that's what I did. And that's what enabled me to change my work. It just enabled me to think differently. It was sort of like taking on an alter ego almost. But it did. I held myself back from doing it until I realized that the reason I was holding myself back was because I feared what people would say. And I think that it's really important that when we recognize why we're not doing something that we really want to do, that we gently turn this back on ourselves and ask ourselves how we could do it in a way that would make us feel safe. And in that regard, what I also wanted to say is that sometimes we don't step into the version of ourselves that we would like to be, partly because of fear. And even if I coached you and we got rid of the fear, there would still be something that would be holding you back, or you might not be able to do it. And I was thinking that one really easy way to do this, to reset yourself, is to put on a piece of music that you really love. A piece of music that goes straight to your heart without it going via your head. And it could be a piece of classical music. Like I've got a couple of classical music pieces that I absolutely love. They just go straight to my heart and I absolutely love them. But I've also got contemporary pop, recent tunes that I absolutely love and that resonate in my heart in the same way, but in a completely different way, because of course it's a completely different genre of music. So whatever it is for you, put that piece of music on and then ask yourself what you would wear to sing that song or play that piece or listen to it in a concert hall. And that might just give you an in into how you would actually like to reset. If you were resetting your style and you couldn't describe to me how you would do it, but you put on, I don't know, a track from Pink or a Taylor Swift track, or maybe a piece of Mozart or a piece of Chopin, and you know exactly what you would want to wear when you were listening to that piece of music or singing to it or dancing to it, even better. What would you wear if you were dancing to that and singing it at the top of your voice? Or if you were listening to a piece of classical music and you turned it up to full volume because no one would hear and you could just listen to it and it just sounded amazing. What would you wear? How would you look? How would you do your hair? How would you be feeling? That, I think, is a really easy and beautiful way for you to think about a style reset. And that all came out of me thinking about how we prevent ourselves actually from getting to the root of how we want to portray ourselves to the world, how we want to portray ourselves, the outer you. How do you want the outer you to look? For so many of us, there are just layers and layers and layers of self-protection on top, and they can be really hard to lift off. And what I want you to do is to have tools to be able to lift those layers off, to get down to the real you that says, actually, when I turn up for work, I want to look strong. I don't want to just walk in a navy jacket and a navy skirt and a pair of navy shoes. I want to look strong and alive. I was thinking the other day that in my next iteration of work that I want to look sexy. I don't mean boobs out on show, red lipstick, although that might be part of it. But what I mean is like strong and powerful and sexy. Of course, this will make you laugh. I then decided to Google it, like how could I look strong and sexy at work, and to see what images came up. But of course they were, in the main X-rated, and were all to do with meeting people, which is a disappointing aspect of the World Wide Web, but there you go. So yes, I'd like to start to turn up looking like a different version of myself, and it's a version of myself that I probably wouldn't have dared to have looked like 10 or 15 years ago, but all of a sudden, which seems to resonate much more with me as I've been doing this work actually for the authority experience and working on myself and thinking how it works out for me and how I want it to work out. This idea came up of a much more powerful me, a much stronger me. It was really revelatory. So that is what I want to say to you from my heart. That is what I want to say to you about what I feel about the zone of peace, which is I love it as a concept. And I also recognize that it comes with bandages and layers that need gently removing in order that we can see what we have tried to hide from ourselves as much as anybody else. So, amazing women, that is what I have for you this week, and I hope that you have found it useful. Both the beginning bit, my planned bit around the reset and the zone of peace, but also my thoughts around what I was writing and how it relates to me and how it might relate back to you. I hope that wherever you are well this week. I hope you can't hear my cold. I've been struggling with a cold and a cough now for 10 days, which is a very long time. And it's nearly going, but I've still got it a little bit, but hopefully on the mend. And I look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week, unless I drop a one-off podcast about the authority experience, in which case you're going to get an interim one between now and next week. But otherwise, I really look forward to seeing you same place, same time next week. Bye for now.